When a woman loses interest in you, she doesn't say it, she shows it. Her texts shrink, her energy dies. Her eyes stop lighting up when she sees you. She becomes a ghost wearing skin. You chase, she drifts. You try harder, she tries less. You ask what's wrong, she says nothing. But deep down, you already know the answer. Comment enough if you're ready to break the cycle and rebuild your power. Number 1. Stop explaining emotions. Every time you explain your emotions to someone who stopped caring, you hand over your power, because what you're doing in that moment is begging for basic decency from someone who has already proven they don't see you the same way anymore. And that act right there, pouring out your heart to someone whose presence is fading, isn't love. It's self-abandonment disguised as hope, and it's destroying your self-worth without you even realizing it. Because in your mind, you're trying to fix things, you're trying to be honest, trying to communicate, trying to connect. But in reality, what you're doing is performing for attention that used to be free, trying to speak life into something that's already flatlined. And the more you explain, the less she listens, because she's already emotionally exited the situation, and now you're just background noise. Someone she once found exciting now trying to win her back with logic and feelings she no longer values. And deep down you feel it, the emotional coldness, the forced responses, the way your words get shorter and her patience thinner. And instead of pulling back like you should, you double down, hoping the right combination of words will reignite the spark. But the spark died not because you lacked words, but because she lost respect. And no amount of explanation will bring that back, especially when she already knows how you feel and simply doesn't care anymore. And that's what most people won't tell you. She's not confused. She's just uninterested. And your need to explain is only exposing how far you've fallen from your own standards, from the version of yourself that once held boundaries. Because explaining emotions becomes begging when it's directed at someone who has emotionally checked out. And the worst part is, when you keep doing this, you slowly teach yourself that your feelings only matter when they're validated by the person hurting you. And that cycle keeps you stuck in relationships where you tolerate emotional starvation in the name of love. And the more you try to make her understand your pain, the more she sees you as weak. Not because emotion is weak, but because it's being misdirected at someone who no longer deserves your vulnerability. And here's the truth that sets you free. The people who truly value you won't make you feel the need to explain your worth over and over again. They won't force you to plead for recognition. They won't ignore you until you explode and then accuse you of being too emotional when all you wanted was a consistent connection. And yet here you are, rationalizing disrespect, giving speeches to someone who has already left the conversation, confusing attention with affection, long texts with love, and her temporary replies with real care. And the more you explain, the more you shrink, the more you lose yourself. Because the man who explains too much is the man who fears being left. And when you live in fear, you live in reaction. And when you live in reaction, you forget who you are and what you deserve. And all this time, the problem was never your emotions. It was where you sent them, who you shared them with. Because feelings are sacred, and when you hand them to someone who's indifferent, you end up feeling ashamed for having them in the first place. And that shame mutates into self-doubt, into constant overthinking, into that inner voice that starts asking what's wrong with you, when the truth is, you're just trying to be seen by someone who's already looking elsewhere. So from this moment forward, understand this. If they cared, they wouldn't put you in a position to doubt it. And if they stopped caring, no paragraph can bring that care back. No explanation, no emotional breakdown, no perfectly written message will reverse the disrespect that's already been shown. And the more you explain yourself to people who are emotionally gone, the more they train you to think you need to prove your worth every time love becomes inconvenient. And that's not love. It's emotional servitude, and this is where the internal shift happens. This is where you reclaim yourself, not through confrontation or pleading, but through quiet clarity, through pulling back your energy and no longer explaining who you are to people who don't deserve access to that knowledge, because your value doesn't live in their response. It lives in your ability to walk away when you're being dismissed. And that walk begins not when they say something final, but when you finally realize that someone who wants to stay never makes you explain why you're worth staying for. And from that moment, you start to shift internally first, realizing you don't need to perform your pain, you don't need to sell your soul to buy someone's attention, and you don't need to justify your emotions to someone who clearly doesn't care. And as you internalize that truth, you begin to feel lighter, not because the situation changed, but because you finally saw it for what it is, not what you hoped it would be. And that's the first true step toward freedom. Not revenge, not bitterness, but indifference, where you no longer seek validation from someone who refused to give it, and where your silence becomes a boundary, not a punishment, where your absence becomes a mirror for their loss, not a strategy to manipulate. And in that space, you begin to remember who you were before you started begging for crumbs. Strong, focused, grounded, someone who doesn't explain his emotions to people who trigger them on purpose, someone who doesn't need to repeat himself in hopes of being heard, because when you're truly aligned with your values, your actions do the talking, and your presence does the teaching. And anyone who doesn't get it either never will or never wanted to in the first place, and you let them go, not with resentment, but with peace, knowing that their inability to appreciate your depth was never your flaw. It was their limitation, and your growth begins the moment you stop trying to teach people how to love you and start choosing people who already do. And until then, your silence is your shield, your distance is your power, and your emotions are no longer weapons handed to those who've already proven they'll aim them back at you. And if you're finally ready to live this, to make this more than just a lesson learned the hard way, then the Stoic relationship blueprint was written for you. This is not just a book, it's a mindset reset, packed with timeless Stoic principles designed specifically for men who are done explaining, done chasing, and done doubting their worth. And now it's available as an audiobook, so you can listen while walking, jogging, driving, training, transforming. Every word was crafted to rewire the way you see relationships, power, and yourself. You don't have to read it all at once, you just have to start. And the best part, it's yours forever. Lifetime access, lifetime wisdom. In a world that changes every week, this is one of the few things you'll always be able to return to when you need strength. Tap the link in the comments. Begin the shift. Number 2, detach without drama. When someone stops treating you like you matter, the most powerful move you can make is to remove yourself without trying to explain why, without trying to be understood, without needing them to feel what you're feeling, because the moment you realize you're being treated like a background option while they chase excitement elsewhere, you owe it to yourself to detach completely, not with loud exits or messy confrontations, but with complete internal control, because nothing destroys your self-respect faster than staying connected to someone who clearly stopped caring, but keeps you around just enough to not feel guilty. And that's the game most people play. They don't leave you entirely, they don't close the door, they just keep it cracked open in case their other options fail. And they know you'll be there waiting, explaining, hoping, forgiving. And that's exactly why they stop respecting you. Because you gave them proof that no matter how low they go, you'll stay. And that's not strength, it's self-neglect. And when you detach, truly detach, you do so not for revenge, not to make a point, but because your peace no longer has room for people who feed off your attention without giving anything real in return. And this is where most people fail. They want closure. They want to make the other person understand how much they're hurting, how unfair it feels, how cold the other person has become. But the truth is, anyone who cared wouldn't have created this confusion in the first place. And expecting the person who's hurting you to fix you is like asking the problem to become the solution. It won't happen because their disrespect is not an accident. It's a reflection of how they value you, and when that value drops, nothing you say can bring it back. Only distance can remind them of what they lost. And even then, you don't create space to get them back. You create space to find yourself, to hear your own thoughts again, to see how far you've been pulled away from your principles, trying to keep a connection alive that they already emotionally abandoned. And once you understand this, detachment becomes your natural response, because you realize begging for closure is just prolonging a conversation with someone who already left the room. And what's worse is staying in a situation where every interaction feels like you're trying to convince someone to feel something they clearly don't anymore, and that silent suffering eats away at your confidence, your direction, your ability to focus, and suddenly you're no longer you. You're a reactive version of yourself, constantly checking your phone, waiting for validation, becoming addicted to small moments of attention that used to be consistent. And every time you reach out, every time you try to re-spark what died, you reinforce the idea that you're okay with being secondary, that you're okay with inconsistency, and you teach them they don't have to change because you're not going anywhere. And that lesson becomes your cage, one you built with your own tolerance, and the longer you stay, the more the walls close in. Until one day, you no longer recognize the person you've become, anxious, doubtful, desperate, watching someone you care about give their best energy to people who never earned it while giving you the bare minimum. And still you stay, trying to be understanding, trying to prove you're different, trying to be the one who holds it all together. But what you don't realize is the longer you hold on, the more you lose the parts of yourself that made you valuable to begin with, and no one tells you this. But sometimes walking away is the only way to save your dignity, because your presence is no longer being honored. And when that happens, you don't scream, you don't post, you don't beg, you just go, quietly, decisively, like someone who's finally tired of playing the role of an option in a life you once thought you were the center of. And in that silence, you begin to rebuild. Because detachment is not the end, it's the beginning of everything you forgot mattered. Your vision, your goals, your routine, your standards. And every day you don't reach out, every day you resist the urge to explain yourself again. You become stronger, you get clearer, you start to see the patterns, how you were chasing people who weren't even meeting your basic needs, how you romanticized inconsistency because deep down you thought you weren't enough for something stable. And now that you've stepped back, it all looks different, clearer, harsher, but truer. And that truth is what sets you free, not closure, not understanding, but raw, brutal honesty that reminds you your self-respect is worth more than temporary connection. And the way you get it back is not by changing them, it's by changing. Your response, by breaking the cycle that kept you chasing people who would never choose you first, by understanding that the most powerful statement you can make is to walk away without giving them a speech, because in that silence, they hear everything they need to know. That you've finally chosen yourself, that you've finally decided you're not here to compete for affection, and that you'd rather be alone in peace than together in pain. And that level of detachment can't be faked. It has to be lived. It has to come from a place so deep within you that you no longer flinch when people leave, because you've seen what happens when you stay too long. You've felt the slow death of self-esteem, the nights spent staring at a phone screen wondering what changed, the anxiety of guessing someone's feelings while ignoring your own. And you're done with that, not because it doesn't hurt, but because it hurts too much to keep doing it. And now you detach, not because you stopped feeling, but because you finally started feeling something stronger. respect for yourself. And with that comes peace, real peace. The kind that doesn't need closure, doesn't need revenge, just freedom. And that freedom begins the moment you understand that anyone who really valued you would never have put you in a position to question it. Number 3, invest in yourself. The reason you feel so broken after someone loses interest in you isn't just about them. It's about the fact that you poured all your energy into something external, and when it left, it took pieces of you with it. And now you sit there wondering why you feel hollow, angry, tired, restless, unmotivated. But it's because you outsourced your identity to a relationship that was never built to sustain it in the first place. And that's why the only path forward isn't chasing her back or proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it. It's turning inward and realizing that the person you've been neglecting the longest is yourself. And the irony is that while you were trying to prove you were worth keeping, you let yourself go. You stopped being curious about your own potential, stopped holding yourself accountable, stopped building, growing, pushing yourself, because everything became about keeping her happy, keeping her close, keeping her interested. And now that she's gone or emotionally pulled away, you don't know what to do, because the man you were before her doesn't exist anymore. And that's the root of the pain. Not just the loss, but the fact that you feel like a stranger in your own skin, and no one tells you this. But the only way to recover your identity isn't to find someone new or numb yourself with distractions. It's to rebuild from the ground up, with brutal honesty and relentless consistency. And it starts small, with your body. Because the way you treat your physical health reflects your discipline, your self-respect. And if you're waking up late, skipping meals, scrolling for hours, avoiding the gym, eating garbage, drinking to cope, and doing nothing to demand more from yourself physically, you're not just losing muscle or energy, you're training your brain to believe that you're not worth effort, that your comfort is more important than your potential, and that becomes your reality, one small excuse at a time. And if you want to transform, you have to break that pattern with aggressive action. And I don't mean waiting for motivation. I mean writing down a plan and following it like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. And that plan isn't supposed to be perfect or impressive. It just needs to be real. Wake up at the same time every day, even when you don't feel like it. Train your body with intensity. Eat food that fuels you, not numbs you. Stop running to short-term highs and build systems that create long-term results. Because every time you show up for yourself, even in small ways, you remind your mind that you are worth it, that you don't need someone else's attention to feel valuable, that you can generate your own momentum without being told you're good enough. And this applies to your mind too. Your mind is either building you or breaking you, depending on how you feed it. And most of you are feeding it garbage, distractions, social media, comparison, entertainment that keeps you passive instead of education that makes you powerful. And it shows in the way you hesitate to make decisions, in the way you second-guess your instincts, in the way you seek permission to act like the person you know you could be. And that stops now, because the truth is, you're not broken, you're undisciplined, and that's a fixable problem. But it starts with awareness, and that awareness comes from silence, not scrolling, from stillness, not stimulation, from learning how to sit with your pain long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you. And most of you won't do it because it's uncomfortable. But comfort is the cage you built to survive rejection, and now it's suffocating your greatness. And the only way out is through discomfort, through showing up for yourself when no one's clapping, through doing the boring, repetitive work that makes you stronger than your feelings. And that's the difference between the life you want and the life you have. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's self-investment. It's the habits you build when no one's watching, the choices you make when you feel like giving up, the standard you refuse to drop even when it feels like no one cares. And yes, it's lonely, and yes, it's hard, but the alternative is worse. Staying the same, hoping people come save you, hoping she notices your pain, hoping the world hands you something you didn't earn, and that life leads to resentment, bitterness, and regret. Because deep down, you know what you're capable of, and ignoring that truth every day is a betrayal far worse than any heartbreak. And this is why investing in yourself isn't about aesthetics or achievements. It's about identity, about becoming someone you can respect when you're alone with your thoughts, about creating a life so full, so focused, so elevated that the version of you who once begged for someone to stay couldn't even recognize who you've become. And the path to that version isn't complicated. It's just uncomfortable, and that's the entire game. Can you delay your gratification long enough to build the version of yourself who doesn't need external validation to feel whole? And it's not about perfection, it's about progression, about showing up every day with intention, about putting effort into the things you can control and letting go of the things you can't. Because when you start building yourself from the inside out, your energy changes, your presence becomes more focused, your boundaries get sharper, your tolerance for nonsense drops, and people start treating you differently. Not because they changed, but because you finally stop tolerating anything that distracts you from your purpose. And this shift doesn't need approval, it needs execution. And that execution is a daily practice, one where you constantly refine who you are. One decision at a time, one workout at a time, 1 hour of focused work at a time, until your life becomes a reflection of the values you've been preaching. And you no longer need to talk about self-respect. You live it, and people feel it when you walk into the room. And that feeling is built, not found, earned, not given. And the moment you understand that, the moment you internalize that every setback, every heartbreak, every betrayal is an opportunity to double down on yourself instead of folding, you become untouchable, not in the sense that nothing hurts you, but in the sense that nothing stops you, because now you've seen what happens when you neglect yourself and you refuse to go back. And that's the edge, that's the standard. And from this moment forward, your life becomes about alignment, about putting your energy only into the things that grow you, serve you, and challenge you. Because now you understand that the person you're becoming is far more important than the people who walked away. And your job isn't to chase, it's to create. To create habits, environments, and mindsets that pull you forward no matter who stays or who goes. Because the mission is bigger than the memory. The vision is louder than the voice that tells you to quit. And when you live like that, you stop chasing relationships that drain you and start attracting situations that reflect your new standard. And that's how you win, not by proving your worth to others, but by becoming someone who doesn't need to. Number 4, raise your standards. Every time you allow someone to treat you below the level you deserve, you're silently telling yourself that you're okay with it. And what's worse is the fact that when you stay in places where the bare minimum is being fed to you like a reward, you start confusing survival with satisfaction, and suddenly you're calling breadcrumbs a meal and telling yourself, at least they stayed, when the truth is they didn't. They just never fully left, and you never fully asked them to. And that limbo you're living in, that emotional gray zone, that zone where you wait for energy that used to be effortless, is where self-worth goes to die, because deep down you feel it. Every time she replies hours later with one-word responses, every time you initiate all the conversations, plan all the dates, carry the connection on your back like it's your responsibility to maintain her interest, and still you hold on. Still you defend her to yourself, to your friends. Still you lie about how good things are because admitting the truth would mean admitting that you accepted far less than you give. And that's the issue. Not her behavior, but your tolerance. Not her disinterest, but your justification of it. And this is the uncomfortable truth most avoid. People don't treat you based on what you deserve. They treat you based on what you allow. And when your standards are low, your experiences will match that. and you can't expect royalty while living with peasant boundaries, because your reality is a reflection of your bottom line. And if your bottom line is, as long as she doesn't leave, then you've already left yourself. And that self-abandonment becomes your pattern, where you trade your voice for peace, your time for hope, your attention for scraps of affection. And what's dangerous is how normalized it becomes, how quickly you adjust to being undervalued because it's easier than facing the truth. And the truth is brutal. You never had to stay, you chose to, and you keep choosing to, even now, because the alternative means raising the bar, and raising the bar means being alone for a while, sitting with your thoughts, choosing solitude over inconsistency, choosing values over validation. And most people can't do it, not because they don't want more, but because they've built an identity around being understanding, and that identity is their trap, because being understanding becomes an excuse for accepting behavior that disrespects them, and so they shrink, hoping if they just love harder, wait longer, stay quieter, the person on the other end will finally step up. But they don't. Because why would they? There's no consequence, no boundary, no requirement, just access, and that access is free, and anything that's free is rarely respected. So you have to ask yourself, not how do I get people to treat me better, but how do I become the type of person who doesn't even entertain what drains them? And that starts with setting a line, a real one, not the fake kind people post about online, but the kind that actually shifts your life. The kind where if someone pulls back, you don't chase, you match it with grace and silence. Where if someone forgets your value, you let them go so they remember it in your absence. Not because you want them back, but because your self-worth doesn't allow anything else. And that shift changes everything, because now you're living by a code, not emotions, and that code dictates who gets your time, your energy, your access. And suddenly, you're not reacting anymore. You're selecting, you're moving with intention, filtering with precision, and people start noticing. Some get uncomfortable, some get angry, some say you've changed. And they're right, you have. Because you're no longer begging for effort, no longer explaining why basic respect matters. And that version of you, the one who used to tolerate disrespect in the name of love, is dead. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring more about yourself. And that care looks like discipline, looks like silence, looks like walking away from temporary pleasure to protect long-term peace. And once you've tasted that peace, you don't go back, you don't settle. Because you understand now that every time you allow inconsistency into your space, you make your life harder, your mind louder, your focus weaker, and you're done with that. Done shrinking for people who don't stretch for you, done bending over backwards just to be noticed, done sacrificing your dignity for proximity. And when you raise your standards, people fall away. Good, they weren't built for the version of you you're becoming. And if being alone is the price of keeping your self-respect, you pay it gladly, because being alone with peace is better than being surrounded by people who make you question your worth. And what's crazy is how fast your life transforms when you stop tolerating less, when you stop saying yes out of fear and start saying no from strength, when you stop explaining yourself to people who already made their decision, because now your life isn't about being liked, it's about being aligned, and you understand now that love without standards is just emotional servitude, and you're done being a servant to anyone's comfort at the cost of your clarity. And that clarity gives you power, gives you options, gives you peace. And you realize that raising your standards was never about arrogance, it was about survival. Because when you live below your standard long enough, you start forgetting who you are. And once you forget, others define it for you, and they'll always define you as less than what you are if that benefits them. So you take the pen back, you rewrite your role, and you play it like someone who knows their value, not someone who needs to be reminded, because you are the reminder now, and every action you take tells people what you allow, what you'll tolerate, and what you expect. And if they can't meet you there, they don't belong in your space. No exceptions, because your energy isn't free anymore, your presence isn't default anymore, and the version of you that settled, that begged, that accepted less than they gave, that version had to die for you to live the way you were meant to. And from now on, every room you walk into knows your standards before you open your mouth, because your discipline speaks louder than your words, and your absence teaches more than your presence ever could. And that's the level you rise to, not just for relationships, but for life. Number 5. Become unrecognizable. The only way to truly take your power back from someone who lost interest in you is to become the version of yourself that they can no longer recognize. Not because you've changed your haircut or upgraded your wardrobe or bought something shiny, but because you've evolved so far beyond the person you were when they disrespected you that your existence no longer fits the world they placed you in. And this is where most people get it wrong. They try to make small cosmetic changes. They try to become slightly more appealing, slightly more confident, slightly more successful, hoping that the person who discarded them will now finally take them seriously. But what you don't realize is that if you make changes just to be seen by someone who never saw your worth, you're not growing, you're still performing. And the goal is not to become better for them. The goal is to become so dialed in, so focused, so purpose-driven that they're not even in the same mental frame as you anymore. And that kind of transformation doesn't happen through gimmicks or aesthetics. It happens through complete internal restructuring, through waking up one day and realizing that the pain they caused was the last push you needed to stop being average, stop being reactive, stop trying to prove anything to anyone, and start becoming someone who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't settle, someone who doesn't need to be chosen because they already chose themselves. And when you hit that point, your energy changes, not in a loud, performative way, but in a calm, unshakable presence that radiates direction, purpose, certainty. And that's when people start noticing, not because you're trying to get their attention, but because you've withdrawn yours, and your absence is louder than any argument, any post, any cry for closure, because the version of you who was once addicted to their validation is now addicted to your own growth. And it shows in how you speak, how you move, how you walk into a room like you belong without asking for permission. And what most people don't understand is that real transformation doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need validation. It happens in silence, in solitude, in those moments where you'd usually text them, call them, break your own rules for them, and now you don't. You sit with the urge, you let it pass, and you train yourself to become stronger than your feelings. And that right there is the shift, from emotional addiction to emotional discipline. And from that discipline comes freedom, the kind of freedom that makes you hard to forget and impossible to manipulate. And when that happens, when the dust settles and they look back expecting the same version of you, they won't find him. They'll find a gap, a space where you used to be, and they'll realize they're no longer welcome in the world they used to take for granted. Not because you're bitter, but because you finally got serious about your life, your purpose, your path. And now there's no room for people who didn't believe in you when you had nothing but potential. And the irony is, the more you elevate, the more they want access, but it's too late. Not because you're cold, but because you've become too focused to be distracted by things that used to derail you. And that kind of self-control doesn't come from books, from content, from quotes. It comes from suffering, from experiencing the pain of giving your all to someone who treated you like an option, and choosing to never let that happen again, not through revenge, but through standards. And those standards now govern your entire life, from who you date to who you talk to, from how you train to how you work. Because now you understand that every choice you make either brings you closer to or further from the person you're meant to be, and you no longer compromise with anyone who costs you peace, focus, or respect. And people will say you've changed, that you've gone cold, that you're different. And they're right, you are. Because you finally stopped apologizing for your potential, stopped hiding your ambition to make people comfortable, stopped shrinking to make others feel big. And the truth is, you were never meant to stay at the level they met you at. And the minute you accepted that, you stopped looking back, stopped explaining, stopped defending, and you started building, brick by brick, hour by hour, day by day, a life so full of purpose that even you look back and don't recognize the man you were before, the man who overthought every reply, who begged for consistency, who stayed up at night wondering what he did wrong. And now that man is gone, replaced by someone who doesn't need to chase anyone because he's too busy chasing his vision, and that vision is what protects you. Now, it's what keeps you grounded when temptation comes knocking, when old habits try to return, when she suddenly pops back into your life trying to check in, but it's too late, because the man she left behind no longer exists. And the man she sees now doesn't need her validation, her apologies, her regret, because he's already moved on, not to another person, but to a higher level of self that no longer needs fixing, no longer needs closure, no longer needs anyone who made him question his own value. And that level of self-respect changes everything, because now you don't just look different, you are different. Your voice carries weight, your presence demands attention, your time is expensive, and the only people who get access are those who bring peace, effort, and clarity. And anyone who doesn't meet that standard watches from a distance, wondering how they ever had a chance with the version of you that exists now. And the truth is, they didn't, because what they had was the unrefined version of you, the one still learning, still bleeding, still hoping. And now that man is gone, buried under discipline, pressure, and rebirth, and what remains is someone who no longer moves based on emotion, who no longer chases temporary feelings, who no longer explains his worth because he lives it. And if they can't see it, that's their loss, not yours. And you let them go with silence, not because you don't care, but because you care more about who you're becoming. And that version of you deserves everything you're building, everything you're dreaming, everything you're working toward. And the price of becoming that person is letting go of anything that reminds you of who you were before the pain turned you into purpose, before the disrespect turned into direction, before the heartbreak turned into hunger. And now that hunger fuels everything, your work, your goals, your standards, your mindset. And from this moment forward, you walk like someone who doesn't need to be explained, because your results speak for you, your presence speaks for you. And if they ever wonder what happened to the man who used to wait, who used to chase, who used to beg, they'll realize too late. He became someone they never deserved in the first place. They don't want you to have this. They want you silent, confused, overthinking texts, explaining your worth to people who never earned access. They want you weak, apologizing for having standards, chasing approval, living in regret. But the Stoic relationship blueprint changes all of that. It's a reality reset, packed with timeless Stoic principles that will tear the mask off everything you thought love was and show you what self-respect really looks like. And now, you don't even have to read it. You can listen to the audiobook while walking, training, driving. It's linked in the comments. If you're ready to finally take your power back, comment, "I reclaim my power." Like this video and subscribe to help this reach the men still suffering in silence. You might just save someone from wasting the next 5 years of their life.